Trade war with our biggest trading partner. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is doubling down on his so-called joke to annex Canada.
We don't need anything, so why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau.
So as much as I know the media would love to stick around for the Q&A, they're not going to be able to do that.
The doors were closed, but the mic was still on.
But Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real...
The stage is set for political theater unlike any other. A crisis is brewing in the Great White North, and at the center of it stands Justin Trudeau, Canada's ever-composed Prime Minister. But the usual measured calm is nowhere to be found. Instead, Trudeau is pacing the halls of Parliament as headlines scream in bold, unforgiving letters.
Hammer didn't capture all of Trudeau's remarks about annexation, but the Toronto Star captured more, and he made it clear he didn't believe the tariffs were about trade or drugs or migrants. I suggest that not only does the Trump administration know how many critical minerals we have, but that may be even why they keep talking about absorbing us and making us the 51st state, he told the room. They're very aware of our resources, of what we have, and they very much want to be able to benefit from those.
Trump threatens takeover, Canada on edge. As we move forward, I'd like to ask you a quick favor to subscribe and like this video. It takes just a second and helps us so much.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
From the moment Trump reignited his America First doctrine, Canada has been in the crosshairs. His rhetoric has escalated from aggressive trade policies to something far more shocking, suggesting that America would be better off if Canada simply became its next state. And while most world leaders might dismiss such a notion as sheer bravado, Trudeau finds himself uncomfortably uncertain. Could Trump be serious? Is this a publicity stunt? Or is there an actual strategy behind the madness? To fully appreciate the spectacle of Trudeau's growing unease, we must first step back and examine the economic battlefield that set the stage for this dramatic escalation. The year is 2025, and the US-Canada relationship is strained like never before. Tensions that simmered during Trump's first term have erupted into a full-scale trade war, with Washington slapping a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports. Lumber, dairy, steel. No industry has been spared from the economic crossfire. The justification? Trump's administration claims these measures are necessary to combat illegal drug trafficking, particularly fentanyl, and to curb what they call an imbalance in the trade relationship.
So we'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number two are the drugs, fentanyl, and everything else that have come into the country. And number three are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time. Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
But these tariffs are only the opening act. The real bombshell dropped when Trump, during an interview with Fox News, declared, "I think Canada would be much better off being the 51st state because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada. And I'm not going to let that happen," he said. "Why are we paying $200 billion a year? Essentially a subsidy to Canada."
We don't need anything, so why are we losing $200 billion a year and more to protect Canada? And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you, if we didn't, because we give them a lot of money. We help them. As an example, we're buying icebreakers And Canada wants to join us in the buying of icebreakers. I said, we don't really want to have a partner in the buying of icebreakers. We don't need a partner. But no right. Nope, no right. Here's what we have. We have a right not to help them with their financial difficulties because we owe $36 trillion still. We're going to start knocking it out pretty fast, but we're going to be able to do it because of energy and other things.
Trudeau, despite his efforts to project confidence, looks visibly shaken when pressed on the issue. He attempts to downplay the remarks, calling them not reflective of any serious policy. Some public figures, business leaders, celebrities, and political analysts see this as an opportunity to strengthen Canada's identity, calling for a renewed focus on national pride and economic self-sufficiency. Others warn that underestimating Trump has never ended well for his opponents. Even former Canadian prime ministers are dragged into the conversation, offering words of caution based on their past dealings with unpredictable U.S. administrations. To fully understand the weight of Trump's remarks, one must look back at the deep, intertwined history between the U.S. and Canada. The two nations have always shared more than just a long border. They are bound by trade, security, and a cultural overlap that makes their relationship unlike any other in the world. For decades, Canada and the United States have been each other's most significant economic partners. The two countries trade billions of dollars worth of goods every day, with industries like energy, agriculture, and manufacturing deeply interwoven. The North American Free Trade Agreement, which governed trade for nearly 3 decades, was eventually replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement under Trump's first term. While Trump hailed the USMCA as a victory for American workers, many Canadian industries saw it as a warning sign, a reminder that the U.S. could and would exert its economic muscle when necessary. Trump, however, has a knack for flipping history on its head to suit his narrative. Rather than highlighting cooperation, he frames Canada as a dependent, an economic satellite that benefits from U.S. protection while failing to pay its fair share. This argument isn't new. He used the same rhetoric against NATO allies in his first term, claiming that America was shouldering the burden while other nations reaped the rewards. Now, he's applying that same logic to Canada, suggesting that if the country wants to continue benefiting from U.S. military protection and trade access, perhaps it should just become part of the United States entirely. As Trump's rhetoric grows louder, a powerful wave of nationalism begins to surge across Canada. What started as a political spectacle south of the border has now sparked a full-blown cultural and economic movement in the north. Canadians, historically known for their polite diplomacy and measured responses, are increasingly responding with defiance. The phrase, "Canada is not for sale," begins trending on social media.
A hat emblazoned with "Canada is not for sale" has gone viral after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened the country with tariffs and suggested it could become the 51st state.
Accompanied by hashtags like "Buy Canadian" and "Not Your 51st State." Small businesses proudly display signs declaring their products 100% Canadian-made, and consumers make a conscious effort to shift their spending habits. Grocery stores see a spike in sales of domestic dairy and produce as Canadians boycott American imports. Even Tim Hortons, the iconic Canadian coffee chain, subtly adjusts its marketing to emphasize national pride, rolling out limited edition maple leaf cups with slogans that hint at quiet resistance. For all his public displays of confidence, Trudeau's private reaction tells a very different story. It happened during what was supposed to be a routine, behind-the-scenes conversation at a diplomatic event. Reuters later reported that a live microphone, unnoticed by Trudeau and his aides, picked up a quiet but revealing exchange.
Do that.
The doors were closed, but the mic was still on.
But Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing. In my conversation with him
Trudeau was overheard expressing his genuine alarm over Trump's annexation rhetoric by saying the words, "This is a real thing." The phrase is simple, but its implications are enormous. Up until this point, most official Canadian responses have treated Trump's remarks as little more than bluster, a distraction, a provocation, something to be dismissed rather than engaged with. But here is Trudeau, in an unguarded moment, admitting that the threat may not be so easily brushed aside. Even more damning was the context of the conversation. Trudeau was not speaking to reporters or addressing the public. He was confiding in close aides, perhaps for the first time expressing the full weight of his concerns. The realization that his words had been caught on a live mic sent a wave of panic through his team. Within hours, efforts were made to contain the fallout. A spokesperson quickly released a statement claiming the remarks were taken out of context and insisted that Trudeau remained fully confident in Canada's sovereignty. But the damage is done. Meanwhile, Trump, entirely unfazed by the diplomatic panic, doubles down on social media. His Truth Social posts are a bizarre mix of real policy threats and pure absurdity. The trade war may continue. The tweets may escalate. The world may watch in stunned disbelief as yet another international crisis is fought not in boardrooms but in hockey arenas and online comment sections. But one thing is certain: Canada is not for sale.